Hello there folks, TaterCat here. Today I will be reviewing Sin Eater by Megan Campisi. This is a novel that follows the story of a girl named May Owens, who has just recently been orphaned. She gets arrested for stealing bread, and is sitting around with a bunch of other girls waiting for what her sentence is. Except she isn't really given one for quite some time. Instead, she's sent back to the cell and waits around for a long time. Then one day, she's dragged out of her cell by one of the religious leaders from the church. They just call them maker men. That's their word for, whatever friggin' religion this is. It doesn't really go into detail about it. I think it's just basically a boiled down Christianity, because it does talk about, conversion of Jews in this old conservatorium or something, but that's for later. A maker man comes in, and he has a couple of other people help her pull out her tongue and tattoos a black S onto it, and then sticks a leather collar on her neck with a tag with a big S on it. What does this S stand for? It stands for Sin Eater. What a Sin Eater is a person, I think it's just a woman, I think it's always just women, but I don't know for sure, who is not allowed to speak. She is basically not allowed to be perceived by other people because she's basically treated as, a curse. So people aren't allowed to look directly at her or directly talk to her except for calling her to recitations, which is being called to the bedside of someone who was dying. The reason why they are called Sin Eaters is the person dying recites the sins that they lived in their life, and then at their funeral, the Sin Eater comes and eats foods that are representative of their sins. So, metaphorically, taking the dying person's sins onto themselves so the dead person can go to heaven without any concern. So that's the point of a Sin Eater, is to just eat sins until you die. And since that's the whole point of them, that's why people just are like, ew, gross, monster. What it turns into is she is brought to the castle for a recitation with the Sin Eater that taught her, and, they get the list of foods, and at the day of the funeral, there is a deer heart placed on the woman's coffin. What a deer heart is signaling the sin of murdering a royal baby, which is obviously just flat out treason. The Sin Eater that was teaching May refuses to eat it. And since May doesn't really know that its significance, she eats it. The Sin Eater that May named Ruth gets tortured to death because she refused to eat the deer heart, therefore committing treason. So then, since everyone at the funeral seemed so shocked that there was a deer heart on this woman's coffin, and the woman did not confess this sin, clearly it must have been placed there after her death. So the whole mystery is, okay, who put the deer heart there? And May's mostly trying to find this out for Ruth's sake, not her own. I did enjoy this book. It is definitely one that I would read again, I think. May kind of reminds me of a girl in a different book I've read a long time ago, but nowhere near the same premise. It is called Brother to Dragons, Companion to Owls. I don't remember the protagonist's name in that, but May kind of reminds me of her, where May talks to inanimate objects and thinks they reply back to her. I think logically she knows that's not what's actually happening. She's kind of just asking herself, okay, what should I do? And then letting the thoughts of, well, you should do this, or you should do that, kind of going over her, but she thinks she directs it from, ask a question, and the paved stones in the ground tell her the answer that she thinks she should do. That's how it goes. The character in Brother to Dragons, Companions to Owls actually does have a power to speak to inanimate objects. That's why it made me think of her. Yeah, I think overall, I will give this an 8.5 out of 10. I would give it a 9, but I'm not gonna lie, the ending, unfortunately, is kind of unsatisfying. Like, I get why it turned out that way, but it's still kind of just like oh, that's it? I'd still recommend it. It's still a good book. I just thought that the ending was, it's realistic instead of having like a fairy tale ending. Which again, it makes sense, but it's just like oh, that kind of sucks. That's it for now. I'm gonna try to go back to reviewing the Demon Slayer manga. Also because I just finished season 3. Like, subscribe, and all that noise. I'll see you in the next one, folks. Later.